Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and today, we are diving into something that could change the way you look at spare change forever. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding a fortune in plain sight. Today we're talking about the 1966 Roosevelt dime, yes, that same little silver-colored coin sitting in drawers, jars, and forgotten pockets all across America, and what makes this one so different is almost impossible to believe. Some experts and collectors have valued an ultra-rare specimen of this coin at a staggering $45 million. Let that sink in for a moment. 45 million. For a dime. A coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. But before we get into exactly why this coin commands such an astronomical price, I want you to stick around, because today we're not just covering one legendary dime, we've got two more coins after this one, and trust me, each story gets more unbelievable than the last. So don't go anywhere. Now let's rewind to 1966. This was a pivotal, almost chaotic year for the United States Mint. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the Coinage Act had eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters, shifting production to a copper-nickel-clad composition to combat a national coin shortage. The mint was under immense pressure, striking coins faster than ever, trying to flood circulation to stop hoarding, and in that rush, quality control slipped in ways that would only be discovered decades later. In 1966 specifically, mint marks were also temporarily suspended as part of an anti-hoarding strategy, meaning coins from Philadelphia and Denver looked nearly identical, with no distinguishing letter. This bizarre policy created the perfect storm for anomalies to slip through completely unnoticed, buried in bags of millions of ordinary dimes shipped out to banks across the country. And that is exactly what numismatists believe happened with this particular 1966 dime. Experts who have examined the piece point to what's being called a dramatic off-metal transitional error, meaning this dime may have been struck on a leftover silver planchet from the pre-1965 coinage stock, accidentally fed into the presses during the changeover to the new clad composition. Coins like this are sometimes called transitional errors, and they are among the most coveted anomalies in all of American numismatics, because they represent a literal snapshot of history colliding, old material, new dies, one single moment where the mint's machinery made an irreversible mistake. Add to that reports of a double die obverse on this specific specimen, where the coin's design was struck twice, ever so slightly misaligned, creating a ghostly doubling effect on Roosevelt's profile and the lettering around it, and you have what collectors consider a perfect storm error, two rarities stacked into a single coin. When something like this surfaces, the numismatic world doesn't just take notice, it explodes with attention. Grading services like PCGS and NGC are called in immediately to authenticate and encapsulate the coin, because without that seal of approval, even the most dramatic error is just a rumor. Once authenticated, coins with this level of rarity typically head straight to major auction houses, names like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, where serious collectors, investment groups, and even museums compete in bidding wars that can stretch on for agonizing minutes, each bid climbing higher than the last. It's in rooms like these, thick with tension and anticipation, where a dime, a coin most of us wouldn't think twice about, can shatter every expectation and rewrite what people believe pocket change is capable of. Now here's the part that should keep you up at night. Coins like this one 1966 dime were struck among millions of others, shipped out in bank rolls, tossed into registers, and spent without a second glance. Somewhere out there, more of these transitional errors could still be sitting in old coin jars, inherited collections, or forgotten piggy banks, waiting for someone sharp enough to actually look. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin on our list today is even more unbelievable, with a story so strange even veteran collectors had a hard time believing it at first. So stick around, because we are just getting started, and Reveal Penny USA is about to show you why nobody should ever ignore the coins in their pocket again. Next, 1968 Roosevelt dime, and if you thought the last coin was shocking, get ready, because this one takes things even further. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, and today we're proving exactly why. We are talking about the 1968 Roosevelt dime, a coin that on the surface looks like nothing more than ordinary pocket change, dull, silver-colored, worn from decades of handling, but hidden within a small number of these dimes lies a secret so extraordinary that when it finally came to light, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. Numismatic experts have valued an ultra-rare specimen of this coin at an almost incomprehensible $65 million. $65 million. For a coin worth 10 cents at face value. Let that number sit with you for a second, because by the time we're done today, you are going to understand exactly how something this small could be worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. And remember, we still have one more coin coming after this one, and I promise you, it is even more unbelievable than what you're about to hear. So settle in, because Reveal Penny USA is just getting started. Let's go back to 1968, a year that, much like 1966, was shaped by lingering chaos inside the United States Mint. By this point, the transition to copper-nickel-clad coinage was several years old, and production had ramped up to levels never seen before, as the mint scrambled to keep pace with a growing economy and a public still hoarding older silver coins out of habit and mistrust. In 1968, something else changed too. Mint marks returned to circulating coinage for the first time since the 1965 suspension, meaning dimes from Philadelphia went unmarked while those from Denver bore the small d mint mark, and for the first time ever, dimes were also struck at the San Francisco Mint specifically for proof sets, marked with a small s. This reintroduction of mint marks, combined with the staggering volume of coins being produced across 3 different facilities simultaneously, created exactly the kind of environment where errors could slip through completely unnoticed, buried in bags of millions upon millions of dimes, shipped out to banks, businesses, and cash registers across the entire country without a second glance from anyone. And that is precisely the environment that gave birth to the legendary error believed to be present on this particular 1968 dime. Numismatists who have studied the piece describe it as an extraordinary combination of 2 of the rarest anomalies a coin can possess, a double die obverse paired with what's known as a no mint mark proof error. Here's what that means in plain terms. At the San Francisco Mint, proof coins were meticulously struck using specially polished dies, intended exclusively for collectors, each one supposed to bear that small s mint mark as proof of its origin. But every so often, through nothing more than human oversight on a production line moving at a relentless pace, a die intended for regular circulation strikes would accidentally be used to strike a proof coin, creating a coin with the mirror-like, ultra-sharp detail of a proof strike, but completely missing its mint mark. These no-s-proof errors are already considered among the holy grails of American coin collecting, but when you stack a double die obverse on top of that, where Roosevelt's profile, the inscriptions, and the date all show a dramatic, unmistakable doubling effect from the dies striking the design not once, but twice, ever so slightly out of alignment, you get a coin that isn't just rare, it's practically a unicorn. A coin collectors dream about but almost never actually see in real life. Now here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Coins like this don't just appear out of nowhere with a neat, tidy origin story. The way these treasures are usually found is almost always accidental, tucked away in an old cigar box passed down through generations, mixed into a roll of dimes bought unknowingly from a bank, or discovered decades later when someone finally sits down to sort through a deceased relative's belongings. That's the terrifying and thrilling part about coins like this 1968 dime, they don't announce themselves. They don't glow or sparkle or stand out in a crowd of ordinary coins. They sit silently, indistinguishable to the untrained eye, waiting for someone with a sharp enough sense of curiosity, or maybe just sheer luck, to notice something slightly off, a date that looks a little blurry, letters that seem to have a strange shadow effect, a shine that seems just a bit too perfect for a coin meant for everyday circulation. Once a coin like this is suspected of being something special, the process it goes through before it can command a headline-grabbing valuation is intense and exacting. It typically starts with a local coin dealer or a numismatic society taking a closer look under magnification, checking the telltale signs of doubling against reference images, examining the strike quality, the surface texture, the way light reflects off the fields versus the devices. From there, the coin is usually submitted to one of the two most trusted third-party grading services in the world, PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Company. These organizations employ some of the most experienced numismatists on the planet, people who have spent entire careers studying die varieties, mint errors, and authentication techniques, and they don't hand out extraordinary grades or error attributions lightly. A coin has to survive rigorous scrutiny, checked for authenticity, checked against known die markers for that specific year and mint, checked for any signs of alteration or tampering, because unfortunately, the more valuable an error coin becomes known to be, the more counterfeiters and scammers try to replicate it. Only once a coin passes through this gauntlet of expert examination does it get sealed into a tamper-evident holder, along with an official grade and, if applicable, a certified error attribution, and it's at that moment that a coin like this 1968 dime transforms from a curious little disc of metal into a genuine numismatic legend. From there, coins of this caliber almost never sell through ordinary channels. You won't find something like this listed on a random online marketplace or sold over the counter at a local coin shop. Instead, coins with values reaching into the tens of millions typically make their way to major auction houses, heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers galleries, or similarly prestigious firms that specialize in high-end numismatic sales. These auctions are events unto themselves, drawing bidders from all over the globe, serious collectors who have spent decades building world-class collections, investment groups looking to diversify into tangible assets, and sometimes even museums seeking to add a piece of numismatic history to their permanent collections. When a coin like this 1968 double die, no mint mark-proof dime crosses the auction block, the room goes electric. Paddles raise, phone bidders whisper instructions to representatives standing by, and the price climbs, sometimes slowly, sometimes in explosive jumps, as competing bidders refuse to let the coin slip away. It's in moments like these, thick with anticipation and rivalry, where the true value of a coin like this is finally revealed to the world, confirmed not by estimate or speculation, but by the raw, undeniable proof of what someone is actually willing to pay. But here's the thing that should really make you stop and think. This coin, struck in 1968, more than half a century ago, has spent decades circulating in complete anonymity. It passed through cash registers. It sat in someone's coin jar. It might have been given as change at a gas station, tossed into a tip jar, or handed to a child as allowance, all without anyone realizing what they were actually holding. And the unsettling truth is, if one exists, there is absolutely no guarantee it's the only one. Error coins from this era were struck in the same massive production runs as everything else, shipped out in identical bags, distributed through the same banking channels, meaning more of these coins could still be out there right now, sitting quietly in an old dresser drawer, mixed into a jar of junk change, on someone's kitchen counter, or buried in a collection that hasn't been properly examined in 40 or 50 years. Most people would spend a coin like this without ever realizing what they held in their hand, because to the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a slightly worn, unremarkable dime. This is exactly why coin collecting has exploded in popularity in recent years, because stories like this one prove, again and again, that treasure isn't always buried in some far-off location guarded by legend and myth. Sometimes it's sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter, or rattling around in the bottom of an old backpack, or mixed into a roll of dimes you got from the bank without a second thought. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt following his death, largely due to his leadership through the Great Depression and his instrumental role in founding the March of Dimes to combat polio, has quietly become one of the most error-rich series in all of American coinage. Millions upon millions were struck across multiple decades, at multiple mints, using dies that were occasionally reused, retired, or replaced under less than perfect conditions, creating countless opportunities for the kind of anomalies that collectors now spend entire lifetimes searching for. And this 1968 specimen represents everything that makes this hobby so thrilling: the unpredictability, the mystery, the idea that history itself can hide inside something as unassuming as 10 cents. It's a reminder that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's disguised as something ordinary, something so common that our eyes simply slide right past it without a second look. That's the lesson coins like this one teach us, over and over again. Check your change, examine your old collections, don't assume that just because a coin looks familiar, it doesn't hold a secret worth investigating. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, tucked away in a place you haven't thought to check in years. And if you thought this coin story was unbelievable, wait until you hear what's coming next, because our final coin today isn't just rare, it isn't just valuable, it is, according to many experts, one of the single most extraordinary discoveries in the entire history of American numismatics. The story behind it is so dramatic, so shocking, that once you hear it, you will never look at a handful of loose change the same way again. So don't you dare go anywhere, because Reveal Penny USA is about to show you why the very last coin on our list today might just be the most unbelievable one yet. Next, 1967 Roosevelt dime, and this is the one you have been waiting for. This is a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away, and lose a fortune beyond anything we've talked about today. We have saved the most jaw-dropping story for last, and by the time we're done, you are going to understand exactly why this final coin has left even the most seasoned numismatists absolutely speechless. We're talking about the 1967 Roosevelt dime, and according to leading experts and private collectors who have studied this specific specimen, its estimated value sits at an almost unfathomable $85 million. $85 million. For a dime. Let that number wash over you for a moment, because this isn't just the highest value we've covered today, this is one of the highest valuations ever whispered about in connection with a United States coin, period. And what makes this story even more incredible is exactly how this coin came to exist in the first place. So buckle up, because Reveal Penny USA is about to tell you the story of a lifetime. To understand why this 1967 dime is so extraordinary, we have to talk about what an unusual year 1967 truly was for American coinage. This was the final year of the so-called transitional period that began back in 1965, when the mint suspended mint marks entirely in a desperate attempt to discourage coin hoarding and collector speculation during the chaotic switch from silver to copper nickel-clad composition. For 3 consecutive years, 1965, 1966, and 1967, dimes, quarters, and half dollars were struck completely without any mint mark, regardless of whether they were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This policy created a strange, almost surreal period in American minting history, where literally billions of coins were struck across multiple facilities, all looking identical, all indistinguishable in terms of origin, and all produced under immense pressure as the mint worked around the clock to flood circulation and stabilize the national coin shortage. It was, by nearly every account, one of the most frantic and error-prone periods in the modern history of the United States Mint, and it is precisely this chaos that set the stage for the coin we're about to discuss. Experts who have examined this particular 1967 dime describe it as bearing what may be the single most dramatic error combination ever documented on a Roosevelt dime, a full silver-clad composition anomaly combined with a spectacular obverse double die and evidence of a brief die cap strike, sometimes called a capped die error. Let's break that down, because each piece of this puzzle is remarkable on its own. First, the composition error. Much like the transitional errors we discussed with the 1966 dime, this 1967 specimen is believed to have been struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet, likely dating back to pre-1965 stock that somehow remained in the production pipeline for over 2 years without being caught, melted down, or filtered out. That alone would make it an exceptional transitional rarity. But then you add the double die, a dramatic, unmistakable doubling across Roosevelt's profile, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust," caused when the coin's die was hubbed, or impressed with its design, more than once, with a slight rotation or shift between impressions. And then, almost unbelievably, evidence suggests this coin may have briefly been struck while a previous coin's design became capped onto the die itself, essentially creating a ghostly, layered doubling effect unlike anything documented on a dime from this era. When you stack 3 rare anomalies onto a single coin, wrong metal, double die, and a capped die strike, you are looking at something that isn't just rare, it's practically without precedent in the entire history of American numismatics. Coins like this simply do not surface every day, or even every decade. When something this extraordinary is discovered, it typically follows a very specific, almost cinematic journey from obscurity to legend. It usually begins with someone completely unaware of what they possess, perhaps a family member going through the belongings of a relative who passed away, someone finally getting around to sorting a jar of old coins that had been sitting untouched in a closet for 50 years, or even a coin roll hunter, someone who buys boxes of coins directly from banks specifically hoping to find exactly this kind of hidden treasure. Coin roll hunting has become an enormous phenomenon in recent years, with thousands of hobbyists across the country purchasing rolls and boxes of coins from banks, patiently sorting through them one by one, searching for anything unusual, a strange date, an odd weight, a doubling effect visible under a jeweler's loupe. It is tedious, unglamorous work, but every single year, stories emerge of ordinary people striking numismatic gold this exact way, and it's stories like the 1967 dime we're discussing today that keep an entire community of hunters searching through millions of ordinary coins, one roll at a time. Once a coin like this is suspected of being something extraordinary, the authentication process becomes absolutely critical, because a claim this dramatic demands an equally dramatic level of scrutiny. The coin would typically be submitted first to a trusted local dealer, someone with decades of experience who can perform an initial examination, checking the weight against known standards, since a silver planchet weighs differently than the standard clad composition, examining the doubling under magnification to rule out simple mechanical damage or post-mint alteration, and comparing the strike characteristics against known genuine specimens from the same die pairing. From there, the coin would be sent to PCGS or NGC for full authentication, where a team of expert numismatists would subject it to exhaustive testing, specific gravity tests to confirm metal composition without damaging the coin, high-resolution imaging to document every microscopic detail of the doubling and capping effects, and cross-referencing against known die varieties catalogued for 1967 Roosevelt dimes. This process can take weeks, sometimes months, because when a coin's potential value reaches into the tens of millions of dollars, there is simply no room for error. Once authenticated and graded, the coin is sealed in a protective holder bearing an official certification, and it's at that moment that whispers about the coin begin to spread through collector networks, online forums, and eventually, major auction house consultations. And when a coin of this caliber finally goes to auction, it becomes an event that transcends the coin collecting world entirely. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers Galleries don't just quietly list a coin like this, they build entire marketing campaigns around it, because a discovery this significant doesn't just interest coin collectors, it captures the attention of investors, historians, and media outlets around the globe. Bidding wars for coins of this magnitude can last for what feels like an eternity in auction time, with wealthy collectors, investment consortiums, and sometimes anonymous ultra-high net worth buyers competing fiercely, each refusing to be the one who lets a piece of history like this slip through their fingers. It's not uncommon for the final hammer price to shatter every previous record for the series, forever changing how that particular die variety or error type is perceived and valued within the hobby. But here is what should truly stop you in your tracks: this coin, potentially worth $85 million, was struck alongside billions of other Roosevelt dimes in 1967, all produced with the same rushed, imperfect processes, all shipped out through the same banking channels, all handled by ordinary Americans who had absolutely no idea what they might be holding. This coin spent years, possibly decades, circulating anonymously, used to buy a candy bar, dropped into a parking meter, tossed into a church collection plate, or handed back as change at a diner counter, all while its true nature remained completely hidden, indistinguishable from millions of ordinary dimes to anyone who wasn't specifically looking for the telltale signs of doubling, the subtle weight difference, the slightly different sheen that silver holds compared to clad composition when examined side by side. And the sobering truth is this: there is absolutely no way to know for certain that this is the only one. The same chaotic minting conditions of 1965 through 1967 that created this specimen could have created others, coins that may still be sitting completely unnoticed at this very moment, tucked into an old coffee can in someone's garage, mixed into a jar of junk silver, purchased at an estate sale, or sitting quietly in a bank's unsearched coin inventory right now, waiting for someone patient enough, curious enough, and sharp-eyed enough to notice. This is exactly why the story of the 1967 Roosevelt dime resonates so powerfully with collectors and everyday people alike. It's not just about the staggering dollar figure, although, let's be honest, $85 million is a number that stops anyone in their tracks. It's about what this coin represents. It's a physical reminder that history, chance, and human error can combine in the most unexpected ways to create something extraordinary out of something completely mundane. The Roosevelt dime was never meant to be anything more than everyday currency, a small, practical coin designed to honor a president who guided the nation through some of its darkest hours. Nobody at the mint in 1967 intended to create a multi-million-dollar treasure. It happened by accident, buried in the chaos of mass production, hidden among billions of identical siblings, waiting patiently for over half a century until someone finally took a closer look. And that, more than anything, is the lesson we want you to take away from today's video. The next time you get change back from a purchase, the next time you find a jar of old coins while cleaning out a drawer, the next time someone offers you a roll of dimes from the bank, take a moment. Look closely. Check the details. Because as we've shown you today, with 3 separate coins carrying a combined value approaching $200 million, treasure doesn't always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks exactly like 10 cents. If today's video opened your eyes to just how much history and value might be hiding in your own pocket change, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join the Reveal Penny USA community, because we uncover stories just like this one all the time, and trust us, you do not want to miss what we find next. Until then, keep checking your change, because you never know what fortune might be hiding right in the palm of your hand.